Each of the schools was really unique, and Fresh Start was quite unique in that it was mixed grades or mixed ages of students, and also it was quite a small group, and it was primarily Indigenous students. And some of them took that even further and were involved in facilitating the blanket exercise, which is incredibly powerful on its own, but if you've ever seen it delivered by students, it's 100 times more impactful, and having young people really facilitate that dialogue and the debrief afterwards is really important.
I guess I'll start out with some Cree because I'm actually learning Cree. So Tanse Nitsiga San Sierra, that in Plains Cree means hello, how are you? My name is Sierra. What do I have to say? I'm in university right now. I go to the U of A, and I am in an open studies course right now. It's TIP, which I kind of want to talk about because a lot of Indigenous people don't know about TIP at the U of A. Basically, it's a open studies thing where Indigenous people who possibly had to leave high school at an early age to help out with family issues, or let's say our grades just weren't perfect, they give us a second chance and let us go and study at the U of A and get into our faculties. So I am in TIP. The faculty that I'm planning to go into is Native Studies with a combined degree of education in order to work with communities and possibly become a teacher either for Native Studies or find my way into the community and help out. I think what is important for us to recognize, you know, a lot of people are like, why are all these Natives angry? Why are all of them upset? And even for me as an Indigenous person, there's points where I look back and I'm like, why is everyone so upset? And it can be scary at how angry people can get. It can be scary how certain people react to situations, whether non-Native or Native. And the one thing I think as people we should recognize, especially those who are non-Indigenous, and I'm going to say even myself, because I have my European side to me, we don't recognize how much wealth we got off of these, like out of the land that we've gotten. We don't recognize how much we got out of the land and out of Indigenous people. We forgot that the Indigenous people taught us how to live during the winter, and if it wasn't for, you know, my ancestors, I wouldn't be here today. A lot of us wouldn't be here today, and that's something that kind of sticks out to me, is how much wealth we got out of so much pain. And I think that needs to kind of be a recognition, and I don't think we need to carry on the pain. I think it's, you know, we are trying to get out of the pain, trying to work with everyone, but there just needs to be that little bit of an understanding that we have so much out of so much pain. And in the blanket exercise, there's a quote that's, I can't exactly quote it, but it says, it doesn't matter if your ancestors were way down the stream, you're still drinking from the water. And that's basically just saying that a lot of people are not recognizing what's happening, and they choose to kind of cover their eyes with that issue, and they're allowing, another quote says that you're allowing it on your watch because you're not stopping the situation, and you're not, you know, the situations could be someone getting discriminated against, or when a kid asks a teacher, can you stop referring to us as Indians because that makes me uncomfortable, some teachers will say, but that's just how the law wrote it out. And that's, you know, the minute you say to a student, okay, that's understandable, I'll refer to Native or Indigenous. Even with myself, when I mentioned genocide with one of my teachers, I was completely shut down and made as a class clown. And in reality, the UN has a statement saying that whatever happened here was a genocide. Just because Indigenous people are not totally extinct doesn't mean there was a genocide that happened here. And I think a lot of teachers need that research in their schools, and they really need to listen to Indigenous kids in order to reconcile with themselves as well as reconcile with their students, and that's an important thing. So yeah, I think if you just watch what's happening around you. Stay away from stereotypes, because I know that's, even sometimes I catch myself stereotyping my own people, and at that time you kind of need to take a step back and realize what was here before everything happened and why it happened, and you need to make sure that you can be the change that you want to see. So that's a big famous quote. I think we got to start living by it.
Just tell me when.
Now.
Okay. I'm Jada and I'm in grade 12.
My name is Sean and I'm in grade 12.
I think it's important to know the culture and history because it kind of makes people ignorant to the issues that surround the people, like the Indigenous people. Like if they don't know the history, then it just makes them make uneducated assumptions. Also with the culture, it's a very vibrant culture. Myself, I practice the culture a lot, and I'm a POW dancer, so it's important to keep that culture alive and to have people recognize it and acknowledge it, not only Indigenous people, but also to have people celebrate it and embrace it. The blanket exercise is important for Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, especially the ones that don't know about the history and that are still learning. It's important because it gives not to the full extent, but it gives information on what happened to Indigenous peoples from pre-contact to today, and it's an emotional experience, and everyone should have the opportunity to go through one. It talks a lot about intergenerational trauma and assimilation and Canadian policies of assimilation, and it just opens someone's mind up to all of those ideas, because some people didn't know about it, even grown people that went to university, that went through the high school education system. They never learned about residential schools, the 60 scoop, all of the assimilation policies. They never learned about it, and when they do the blanket exercise, it just reinforces that idea of it reinforces the ideas of reconciliation, and it brings about change in a small way. So yeah.
So doing the blanket exercise, it spreads a lot of awareness of Canada's past, and a lot of it was swept under the rug for a long, long time, especially why we are this way and why our parents are this way, and many of our ancestors are this way. And so it brings not only awareness to non-Indigenous people, but also to people like me, Indigenous people that hadn't known any of these things, because many residential school survivors didn't know about many residential school survivors, they don't like to talk about their past experiences, and it makes sense why they don't want to, because a lot of it is really sad. And so that's how come we didn't get the full truth on what happened in the residential schools, and that they weren't learning much, and it was full of sadness. And in the blanket exercise, there's this list, and there's a few things on there, aggression and hopelessness and depression, anxiety, and it just kind of explains to us why our people are this way. And so it cancels out the stereotypes, and it's really nice when it actually affects somebody's lives, because we do the blanket exercise and we never know if we actually affect anybody. And so when we do and we see that change, it makes us feel better about ourselves. It makes us feel like we're doing good in the world, and that we're actually making change within our communities. And it's really comforting after a blanket exercise, because you just know that you're doing something for a good reason. You're not just going to the mall after school. You're gonna do the blanket exercise. You're gonna spread awareness about your culture and about the Canada's past. Even though it's dark and it's sad, it still spreads awareness, and it's just kind of changing our future generations and changing the mindsets of them. And so, yeah, it's really comforting to know that many of our youth today, if they see the blanket exercise, they'll have a different perspective on Indigenous peoples. So that's why I think it's important.
My name is Carla Taylor, formerly Carla Gilday. I am a Dene artist from Yellowknife. I grew up in the north to a multicultural family. I'm also Irish and French. And I spent a lot of time in nature and really developed a strong connection to the land. And out of that grew a strong love for art and design. The logo I designed for the Reconciliation Project in schools for the John Humphrey Centre includes a few different elements. So there's a red circle which represents all the red nations within Canada. There's also a new shoot of a leaf, and it represents new growth. There's also a yellow circle which represents the sun and brighter days. There's also a series of ribbons that kind of flow down from the new shoot, and that represents the different nations in Canada, support of all nations for the reconciliation of Indigenous people in Canada.
Listen to the land she speaks. Open up your eyes. Feel the sand beneath your feet. Feel the wonderful